In this podcast episode, the host interviews former NBA player Royce White about his upbringing, his experience in the NBA, and his advocacy for mental health. White begins by discussing his childhood as an only child raised by a single mother who worked as an esthetician. He talks about the struggles his family faced and the financial hardships they endured. Despite these challenges, White had a strong support system in his extended family and was exposed to cultural diversity growing up in the Twin Cities area. White explains that basketball was not always on his mind during his early years. He was a late bloomer in the sport and didn't become a top player until the 8th grade. In high school, he excelled and gained confidence in his abilities. He talks about the gift and curse of being in the spotlight and the pressure he felt to perform. The conversation then shifts to White's college years and his experience of transferring from the University of Minnesota to Iowa State. He explains that he faced cultural and community issues at Minnesota, which led to his decision to transfer. He also discusses the unfair treatment he received from the University of Minnesota Police Department, which accused him of theft without evidence. After transferring to Iowa State, White had a successful year and was projected to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. However, his anxiety disorder became a major topic of discussion leading up to the draft. White reveals that he accidentally mentioned his anxiety in an interview, which sparked a media frenzy. This led to uncertainty about where he would be drafted, and he ultimately ended up being selected 16th overall by the Houston Rockets. White then delves into his experience with the Rockets and the difficulties he faced in advocating for mental health policies within the NBA. He explains that he wanted a mention of mental health in the collective bargaining agreement and a policy that would prioritize mental health alongside physical health. However, the Rockets and the NBA were resistant to implementing such policies, viewing his advocacy as a gimmick. Despite the promises made to him, White was ultimately blacklisted from the NBA and struggled to find another opportunity to play. He discusses the double-cross and triple-cross tactics used by the league and the lack of support he received. He also highlights the hypocrisy of the NBA, which claims to support social justice and mental health but failed to back up their words with actions. The conversation continues with White discussing the progress that has been made in the NBA regarding mental health, thanks in part to players like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan speaking out about their own struggles. He explains that a policy was eventually put in place mandating every team to have a mental health professional on staff. However, he criticizes the NBA for not guaranteeing that using their mental health services won't be held against players during free agency. White continues by discussing his experiences with mental health in the NBA. He criticizes the lack of knowledge and resources available to players, highlighting the irony of the league's emphasis on physical health while neglecting mental health. He argues that mental health should be treated with the same importance as physical health and that teams should have access to mental health professionals. White also criticizes the NBA for weaponizing mental health against players and using it as a tool for control. The conversation then shifts to the Daryl Morey incident, where Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, tweeted support for the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. White discusses the backlash Morey faced from the NBA and other players, including LeBron James, who criticized Morey for potentially endangering players' financial interests. White argues that Morey's tweet was in line with the NBA's supposed values of freedom and democracy, but the league's response showed a lack of consistency and a willingness to prioritize financial interests over human rights. White then shares his experiences with activism during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. He describes leading peaceful protests in Minneapolis and advocating for justice and equality. However, he also criticizes the mainstream liberal establishment and the Black Lives Matter movement for their failure to address the economic issues and the role of the Federal Reserve in perpetuating inequality. White argues that the focus on identity politics and social issues distracts from the larger systemic problems that need to be addressed. The conversation concludes with White discussing his decision to run for Senate. He explains that he wants to bring a smash-mouth populism to politics and challenge the establishment. He criticizes the Minnesota GOP for not supporting his previous run for Congress and expresses his desire to fight for the rights and values of the American people. White believes that the current political system is corrupt and that it is time for a change. Throughout the interview, White emphasizes the need for honesty, transparency, and accountability in all aspects of life, whether it be in sports, politics, or society as a whole. He believes that the current system is failing the American people and that it is time for individuals to step up and fight for what they believe in.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.